Good evening. Welcome to the September 30th, 2014 regular meeting agenda of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. We started our meeting this evening at 5 o'clock with a call to order. There were no public comments. We went into closed session, and item number 1 with County Council, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, State of California Department of Health Services versus Office of Administrative Hearing through the Sacramento Superior Court case. We made a motion on 4-0 with 1 absent, Supervisor Spellman being absent, to authorize County Council to refer the amicus brief to the CSAC Council to pursue the filing of this amicus brief. Item number 2, County Council Public Employee Performance Evaluation for title of County Administrative Officer. No action was taken. And item number 2, we will continue this particular item after tonight's meeting. Item number 3 with County Council, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation of 1 case, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. With this particular item, no action was taken. So with that, I'd like to ask for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you please stand. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just for the record, Supervisor Spellman notified us a little earlier this afternoon that he was not feeling well and would not be attending tonight's meeting. We'll move on to public comment. Public comment, this is for any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agenda, may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking any action on matters which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the consent agenda. If it's not completed during the allotted time period, we will continue it at the conclusion of the regular agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. So we'll start our 30-minute public comment period at this time, and each speaker has 3 minutes in which to speak. Are there any public comments? Let this be a first. Thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for discussion. Do any board members wish to remove an item? Any staff member? Any member of the public? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Supervisor Callaway, second by Supervisor Wright, to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries 4-0 with Supervisor Spellman absent. On regular agenda, we have item number 7, probation/AB 109. Approve the Calaveras County agreement to contract with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to provide services to state parolees at the Calaveras County Day Reporting Center from the date of approval to June 30th, 2016. And we have Mr. Leach here this evening to present this item.
Thank you. Hopefully
good
you've
afternoon.
all had a chance to review the materials and the contract that's in front of you. This is an opportunity for revenue, granted not to the general fund, but with regard to the CCP monies and the CCP fund balance. This is something that was approved by the CCP prior to me getting here. It has taken a long time to work out the contract with the state and get it before you. But this is an opportunity for us to service parolees who are in our county who are currently not receiving services due to what's gone on with state parole. If they're living in our county, we might as well be servicing them at our day reporting center These are high-risk offenders. We have high-risk offenders only that we're servicing at the day reporting center, so this isn't an issue where we're bringing in people who are higher risk than what we have, just a different form of supervision. So we're partnering with the state and hopefully providing services to up to 5 inmates and bringing in some revenue that we can use to offset some of the expense that we have there at the day reporting center. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions of Mr. Leach at this time? Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion made by Supervisor Edson, second by Supervisor Wright, to approve the Calaveras County agreement to contract with California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to provide services to state parolees at the Calaveras County Day Reporting Center from the date of approval to June 30th, 2016. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item number 8, Public Works. Approve the third amendment to the professional services agreement between Calaveras County and Stantec Consulting Services for bridge design services associated with the Harbor Road Low Water Crossing Project, increasing the agreement amount by $44,794.36 for a new total not to exceed $442,702.51, with the term ending December 31st, 2015. Good evening.
Good evening. Mark Davis, I'm with Public Works. Just to give you a general scenario of what this project is, this is a low water crossing right now. It's gravel, well, it was gravel originally. It is now a very low concrete gang of pipes. We're going to replace it with a concrete bridge. The original RFP, to explain the RFP process, Public Works anticipated we would replace the gang of pipes, which is about 80 feet long, with a bridge, and then fill in the ends with the approaches, and that would be the project. As we get into preliminary engineering, the engineers look at all the details of the bridge design, and they find that the the drainage basin is far larger than what they had anticipated. So the 80-foot bridge that they proposed on is now a 295-foot bridge. This $44,000 is going to take care of that expanse.
Okay, so this money here is for the engineering and design for this particular project?
Yes.
Not for the construction of?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Preliminary engineering.
All right. Any comments or questions from the board? Any public comments on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Here's one.
Oops, excuse me.
Bonnie Newman from Double Springs, you brought up something interesting. This is just for the planning of it. I'd just like to have an offhand number of what you expect it might cost at 295 feet long now, at the end.
Is there any estimation of construction costs?
We have a series of bridges which we're working on right now, and this will be the most expensive, except for potentially crossing the Old Burns Ferry Bridge. It is estimated at this point being approximately $4 million. That amount will come from the Highway Bridge Program and toll credits. The local match will be covered by toll credits. So it'll be inexpensive for the county.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
I'm familiar with Harvard Road and that crossing, and it does need to be improved, but I think we might be going for a Cadillac rather than a car that just works. It was said that it was explored to use a larger culvert and a improved crossing using fill. And the reason why that would not be feasible was because of the greater amount of area that the watershed and more water could come down. Well, the way those kind of crossings are designed is with a concrete cap, which allows on those 100-year storms for the water to actually go over if they can't go to the culvert. And the cost difference could be as much as, I don't know, maybe 90, maybe what they're proposing now could be 10 times or even more expensive that's needed. The next question we have to ask, what amount of population, what amount of traffic is being served there? And that would have a particularly important thing as to whether to build such an expensive bridge or not. And I have a suspicion that the people that are served by that road are not a great number of people. There's mostly ranches out in that area, larger acreage. There's no subdivisions. So I would suggest that the taxpayers would be better served by improving the crossing, but maybe not go with the Cadillac. And even though the county taxpayers are not directly affected by this, or maybe marginally, the fact that we are also taxpayers to the state. So we have to be just as careful with state funds as we are with our own funds. And so we need to use due diligence. And so that's our recommendation, is to put this back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, can I just say something?
Yes.
We had, Mr. Segala's right, we did have quite a bit of public conversation about this when Supervisor Walensky was on the board. We had public safety come and explain the importance of having this. Chris might address the area better than I, but being able to get to areas of the county that it took, areas near there, it took them a lot longer to get there, and why this was important to them. We did discuss the low population that was in that area, and we weighed all those things and said we wanted to proceed with the project because public safety, it was isolating people, and to get to them, just was a lot more difficult for public safety, whether it be police or fire or ambulance, to get to that part and other parts of the area that's served. As for the technical aspects, I'll leave that to Public Works on whether we should put in a huge culvert or build a bridge. I can't answer that. I mean, I remember it was discussed, but that's beyond my pay grade. So I hear what you're saying, Mr. Segala, and we did vet that. And this is sort of what we came up with, and we're glad the taxpayers in the United States are helping to pay for this bridge. So spread it around a bit. No, I mean,
So
I may
Robert,
joke, but I mean, I hear what you say, and we did vet those concerns that you had regarding to the need and to public safety, but I can't address the technical. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Edson?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching this stuff go on at Harbor Road for quite a while before I got on the board. Didn't agree with almost all of it. It's kind of like, what are we throwing money out there for when we need it in other places that we could use it for better circulation, especially around areas where we can grow economically. How long's it been like this?
Well, the nature of the program, of the HBP program, limits the use of the funds for these types of projects. So we have a number of bridges that are currently funded through this program. There's 16 or 17 that are all throughout the county. At this point, the way the program is set up, they're mostly used for what we call the local roads, the smaller roads. For the major roads, we can't use toll credits for that type of a project. We have to come up with our own funding for the local match. That's one of the problems with the Oak Burns Ferry Road Bridge. To build that bridge, the grant amounts are close to $50,000, we still have to come up with $7 million of our own funding. That makes that type of project kind of way outside of our reach. The only type of project that then we have left that we can build are the ones on these local roads.
What's local, like Burson Road?
I believe that one might be classified a major collector. It depends on the functional classification of the roads. All the bridges in the county are on a program. They're all inventoried, they're all assessed. There's maintenance money that's given from the state to help us maintain all these bridges. The bridges are prioritized, and then depending on the nature of the work that's needed to be done on these bridges, maybe some of those might fall into the HPP program. That's a long process.
Okay.
This Harvard Road, it's been a wet crossing from
About 100
time
about 100
immemorial,
years.
right?
Yeah.
Who knows? And, but there's an opportunity here to address safety issues, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Well, what happened, so we can't give up the money then, really? Is there another, can we redirect it somewhere else?
To another bridge,
Yeah?
to another bridge that has, well, and then the problem then is that at this stage, with some expenditures that we've gone into this program, we may be required to pay back
Well, the payback thing.
that federal money or the state money that was given to us
Okay.
to get to this point.
All right, just let you know, I would have never voted for this thing at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Callaway, to approve the third amendment to the professional services agreement between Calaveras County and Santec Consulting Services for bridge design services associated with Harbor Road Low Water Crossing Project, increasing the agreement amount by $44,794.36 for a new total not to exceed $442,702.51 with the term ending December 31st, 2015. All those in favor?
Painful
Oppose?
aye.
Oppose? Motion carries 4-0. Item number 9, administration, conducting a public hearing for the purpose of soliciting views to set priorities for the potential selection of community development block grant supplemental projects using program income reuse funds. So this is a public hearing, so we will have a presentation of this project, then we'll open it up to public hearing, taking comments, close the public hearing, and continue any questions from the board. Shirley?
Good evening, Shirley Ryan, County Administrative Office, and also with us is Terry Cox with Cox Consulting, who assists us, she's the contractor that assists us through the CDBG programs. Tonight's public hearing is basically to solicit citizen input for the CDBG supplemental projects. A little bit of history. In the past, the county's had what was called revolving loan funds. It's also known as program income funds. And in the past, the county could have those on hand and use them with approval from CDBG, the state, and feds for certain things. Currently, with new law passed in July of 2014, the federal rules regarding program income says we need to use those monies first prior to drawing down grant funds of any open grants that we have. And we have an open grant for $600,000, which is funding projects with the food bank, motherlode job training, and the West Point Community Survey. So basically what this hearing is to receive public input or citizen input of possible projects for those public use funds. Because if we do not use those funds for a supplemental project that will be approved by the state, then we will have to use those prior to using the $600,000 for the grant. And in essence, you're reducing the grant by $215,000. So we've already done some community outreach, and we have a couple of people, community organizations that have put forth possible projects. One is Common Ground Senior Services, and that's for transport vans for veterans. We've also been in contact with the Volunteer Center of Calaveras County regarding a community center here in San Andreas. One of the things I do want to mention is that it is imperative that whatever project we present to the state can be approved quickly and it can be completed quickly, because if we don't spend down 50% of the grant funds by March of 2015, it will make us ineligible for the 2015 CDBG grant programs. So we're not asking the board to take any action at the end of the public hearing, where it's a requirement of the CDBG programs to do a public hearing for citizens to give their input. We will continue to work with the groups that are putting forth these projects. Also regarding the 2015, just as a sidebar, CDBG program, in the next few weeks we'll be coming out with information on that, holding a public meeting for any and all groups interested in applying for those funds. But this is a separate issue. This is supplemental funds, and this is something that needs to be done and approved quickly. So with that, if you have any questions, both Terry and myself are available to answer them.
I have a question.
Okay.
What are the, what's the criteria?
It's basically the same as what it was for your normal CDBG programs: Housing and Public Works, Community Facilities, Public Services, and Enterprise Fund, and larger economic development projects. But the thing to remember is this is something, you're not looking at a large project for the supplemental funds. It's $215,000, and it has to be approved by the state and spent along with up to 50% of that $600,000 grant funds, so to make us eligible for much bigger projects to apply for as part of the 2015 CDBG projects.
So at this point, it's putting the application, get it to the state for approval, and spend it all by March of 2015.
That's
So
correct.
A 6-month window.
Right.
All right. Any questions of the board? Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing on this item. Did anybody else wish to speak on overview of this project or this item? Terry, did you have any?
I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, all right. So we're going to open up the public hearing process on this item. So for the public hearing purposes, if you could sign in for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. Myron Kelso, President of the local affiliate of Habitat for Humanity. I'd like to just make an opportunity to first thank the board for its continued support of Habitat, and should any funds become available through this program for rehabilitative housing within the community, we have demonstrated and seen a need for this. Most recently, we had a community grant from the Calaveras Community Foundation, its Aging in Place Seniors Initiative. They gave us a $6,000 grant. When we publicized that grant, we had an overwhelming response to it, simply from the seniors, to a degree that was probably 5 or 6 times the amount of money that was available from the grant. If we expanded that to low-income housing, to veterans, et cetera, we would find a much larger need for the funds. So in that response, I would like to simply offer an opportunity for the county to open dialogue with Habitat for any funds from this opportunity that's come forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Hi, Kathy Topol with Common Ground Senior Services. As a senior service provider for 12 years in these counties, I think you have seen, as I know I've seen and others have seen, the lack of transportation for non-emergency medical appointments. It's huge. For 12 years, I have been addressing this issue, and we just keep kind of getting a little bit further, but we never seem to meet the need. So I would just like to thank the board for this consideration of providing some vans to get these people not only in county, but out of county. The hardest thing we have is getting handicapped, wheelchair people out of county to the VA hospitals, to Modesto, to Stockton. And so, we would like to have this for that reason. So thank you.
Any additional comments?
Marty Crane, I'm the director of the Volunteer Center. And first I want to say that the two projects that we just heard about are phenomenal. Habitat, I just can't tell you how many times first of all, the Volunteer Center, we have a safety net transportation program that we've been operating since 1991. And when we go to people's homes, we can see the distress of the buildings and the houses. They have no way of fixing them. So I applaud Habitat big. And then also the safety net transportation program that the Volunteer Center operates is for anyone, all ages, all demographics. But there is one requirement, that you be able to get in and out of the car with minimal assistance. So this plan that Common Ground has about a van or two with lifts, because I think is a great idea, because when you think about the other options, it costs a fortune for someone to get to Stockton if they're in a wheelchair. So that being said, my name's Marty Crane. I'm the director of the Volunteer Center at Calaveras County. And in 1991, the Volunteer Center was started by a group of concerned local citizens who were aware of unmet needs throughout Calaveras County and the impact to our residents. And then they formed a volunteer transportation and assistance program. A large part of our success and longevity is due to the fact that it is a volunteer center with minimal overhead and programs run by volunteers. The Volunteer Center programs are a benefit to the entire community, all ages, all walks of life, including our senior, frail, veterans, low-income residents, and those dealing with disabilities. Our county senior population is aging rapidly, we all know that, and those we serve at the Volunteer Center fall into every category already mentioned. The Volunteer Center encourages community involvement and is there to coordinate efforts when family transportation options fail to materialize. We coordinate a safety net transportation program, as I said, that serves approximately 390 residents. That number fluctuates, and we never know quite exactly what it is because we deal with the elderly, and we don't always hear when someone is passed on.
30 seconds.
Oh. In 2013, 25 to 50 countywide volunteers drove 2,600 miles per month, almost triple the 1,000 miles per month in 2009, and they continue to contribute thousands of hours of annual service. The volunteer mileage reimbursement increased from $1,500 in 2004 to over $8,400 just last year. The Life-Saving Yellow Dot program lives on our website and in our office. Our website provides opportunities for agencies to connect with motivated volunteers and vice versa. For years, the center rented office space in the San Andreas Senior Center, and last year an opportunity arose to partner with the local school district to use and develop a double-wide portable classroom on an undeveloped parcel for the purpose of supporting the area children and the community. We have access to 2 more such classrooms. We just need to move them on site, build bathrooms and a kitchen. Other use opportunities continue to be suggested as well. This classroom is next to San Andreas Elementary School that alone serves 75% free and reduced lunches with a student population of 300. The parcel is a blight on the immediate neighborhood and creates a high fire risk if it is left as is. Thanks to the community, the roof no longer leaks, the heating and air conditioning unit has been replaced, the driveway encroachment still needs to be repaired, and we have no plumbing in the building, but we are optimistic. The economic downturn hit the Volunteer Center just as hard as the county and all other agencies. And with that in mind, this building project would help us to continue to and expand the work that we've been doing for the community and in partnership with the community since 1991. Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
This gave me an idea. I know there's CDBG money and CSB, Community Service Block Grant monies. And I've had this idea for a long time about creating a program for private pay home care and domestic services. You know, we have the IHSS program, but if you make more than $935 an hour, a month, you don't really qualify. So when you're a private pay person, you're kind of at the mercy of anybody to call somebody and have them come into your house and provide a service for you. So I've had this idea of having an alternate program of fingerprinted, background checked home care providers who have been through IHSS and no longer have a client or wish additional clients in order to have a safety net so people aren't inviting criminals to come in and, wipe out their pantry or whatever they do. And I was just wondering, would this money, if like you partnered with IHSS or maybe partnering IHSS with Area 12 Agency on Aging, with this CDBG money, I don't know how much there is. I didn't say, we've got, $480,000 available and so many programs have already used up. I have no idea, but is CDBG money available for that kind of program or project? It would be?
We'll answer when we conclude all the public comments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this item. Shirley, can you take a moment to answer a few of the questions that were proposed?
Actually, what we will do is work with any of the people that came forward in any other organizations that come forward through public outreach in the next few weeks, and work with them to vet what their projects are and whether they meet the criteria for CDBG, and then we will return to the board for approval of, or our recommendation for approval of possible projects for the $215,000.
So what I hear is there's about $215,000.
Correct. In the
It's-
supplemental projects, which is what the public hearing is about tonight.
Right, so then there's about a 6-month window period to submit the project, have the state approve it, and spend it.
Correct.
And earlier we had 2 entities interested, one from Common Grounds and one from the Volunteer Center. What we heard tonight was consideration for Habitat for Humanity and an idea out there about home care services for private pay type individuals.
Right.
So at this point, would these folks representing their various agencies or services, et cetera, would be able to contact
Myself and/or Terry Cox. The best thing would be to contact me initially, and I'll put them into contact with Terry Cox to more fully develop those projects.
So the proposals are put together, and at some point, the board will approve them or not, and then they go on to the state for approval.
That's true. And usually we'll be talking with the state too and putting forth to them, does this sound like a regional project? Does that sound like something that meets the criteria? I mean, this is low-income type help, and we will bring those projects back to the board. And it may be for the supplemental project, or then we may work with those and recommend them apply under the 2015 grant, if it looks like it's going to be a longer ongoing project.
Can you tell me what over-the-counter large economic development project means?
I'll let the expert on that one.
Yeah, the Terry Cox Consulting, the over-the-counter projects, it's just the weird name that CDBG uses for any large economic development project. So, for instance, over in Tuolumne County, they have just received a $3 million grant for the Rush Creek Lodge. So that's an example of that. And actually, the chairman was involved in another over-the-counter project that was in the city of Angels for the Stealthy West development.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I buy land too? I think I asked you this before.
Land acquisition is an eligible activity. It's just that you have to have benefit to targeted income households, so there has to be another step where that part happens.
This gets back to something that's been, because one of my communities does not fit that criteria as a total community, but a portion of the community fits that criteria. And then I have to go back then and get a planning grant to prove that that small portion, and I've not ever been able to get that planning grant. So, I mean, it's like, yes, you qualify, but, and, I don't know, yes, it's eligible, but, and then a specific project's been more difficult to get through CDBG.
Yes, you're right, it is an eligible activity, and then the meeting the national objective, that is benefiting the lower income households, that's the part that you have to document. So typically that's done with a income survey, door-to-door survey for an area that doesn't have census data that shows it on the face, and there's not much in the county that would meet that just based on the census data. So you wouldn't necessarily have to have a planning grant, but you would have to at least be able to fund the income survey. And those have been running $7,000, $8,000 for a community that's got about 1,500 households in it.
That's not bad.
I mean, I remember the drama and Angels. I mean, I'm glad Angels, God, I can say it to now, she's on the Board of Supervisors. But when they wanted to do the redevelopment, and they hated the word blight, and so they never did a redevelopment agency in Angels because of that one word, and yet they got a CDBG grant for Stealthy. I mean, I'm happy for them, I don't know how they did it, but there's a dichotomy there between, they got the CDBG, but the town turned down redevelopment. Remember?
Oh, I
You
do.
were on the board?
Yeah,
then,
no,
or the
yeah.
council?
It was,
Yeah,
you know,
anyway.
the ownership at the time through Terry Cox and EDC, when there was an EDC funded and such, and that it was a specific grant that went towards equipment, and in turn then showed employment opportunities for, I guess, an income classification of people, and, you know, it had to be proven within a 3-year time period, and then there was a payback of the grant with interest that the city established. And when there was an ownership sell, it triggered the payback, and the monies then went back into funding the museum and the expansion of the museum, the buildings and carriage house and improvements to the museum.
And if you're looking, you know, at larger grants that are going to take more time, those would be more appropriate through the 2015 grant than the supplemental grant, which is what we're discussing tonight.
So as I understand it, also, if we don't spend this down, then we could lose lose the ability in 2015 to apply for more community development block grant revenue.
That's exactly right.
So that's why we need to do that.
Use it or lose it,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
lose the
Thank you.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was information only?
It was to seek public
Okay.
input from
So it
citizens.
sounds like there's four potential projects to pursue here.
That's correct, and we will work with those entities.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to no vote needed on item number 9. We'll move on to number 10, administration, authorizing the allocation of Federal Forest Reserve Title III funds for 2013 in the amount of $24,699.24 to the Calaveras Foothills Fire Safe Council. Administration.
Again, Shirley Ryan, County Administrative Office. The Title III funding was reauthorized late in the year, and we received the money in the amount of $24,699. If you'll recall, when we came to the board last year, the money was divided up, a portion going to the Fire Safe Council and $15,500 going to the Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue for search and rescue activities on National Forest lands. They did not spend any of those dollars last year, so we rolled those and included those into the 14-15 budget, so they in turn did not apply for any portion of the $24,699. This money can only be used for very specific things, and the Fire Safe Council submitted the request for the entirety when they found out that search and rescue was not going to need any additional funding above the $15,500 that was carried over. So before you is, I'm requesting authorization to allocate that amount to the Fire Safe Council.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the board? Supervisor Callaway?
There's a strong likelihood that Congress will not approve the Secure Rural Schools funding in the next go-around, or if they do, there'll be another cut. And as much as we've all lobbied, at least in rural counties, for this, there's the strong commitment for I was talking to Shirley earlier, for the PILT program, the payment in lieu of taxes, but there's not widespread support for this, so this could be the final year or greatly reduced next year for the SRS fund. So I'm really in support of dedicating these funds to the Fire Safe Council. So I'll move that. I mean, after public comment.
Okay.
Or I move it and we second and then do public comment, whatever the chair wishes.
Is there any other board comments? Is there a second to that motion? I'll move to public comments. All right, so I have a motion and a second. We'll continue public hearing or public comments on this item. Item number 10. Okay, seeing no public comments, I'll call for the vote. Supervisor Callaway made a motion to authorize the allocation of Federal Forest Reserve Title III funds for 2013 in the amount of $24,699.24 to the Calaveras Foothills Fire Safe Council. That motion was seconded by Wright. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, item number 11 is board member announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 532.32.3, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as county supervisor. Supervisor Callaway, would you start this discussion?
Yeah, I was at the Rural County Representatives of California meetings last week. We voted again, yes, as the California State Association of Counties did, to support the water bond, and that was Prop 1. Again, Prop 47 came out, Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. It was passed by RCRC. I, again, had encouraged RCRC to take a neutral position on this proposition. In essence, The position had been, let's wait and see how the realignment works, because we've only been 3 years into the realignment in public safety, but we do a lot of catch and release already for people who do these really low-level crimes, and they wanted to reclassify them, and that was part of Prop 47, any savings to those low-level crimes that they wouldn't go into jail, they would still have probation time. The money would go into counties getting extra dollars for programs in the K through 12 for mental health and drugs and so forth. Because when you have somebody who might, and there were dollar amounts to this, I mean, if you did receiving stolen properties, writing a forged check, for example, it was under $950. The DA and the judge could always determine, because of past records, it wouldn't apply. So, I mean, I was sort of had mixed feelings about it. I like the very positive aspects of Prop 47 because the whole thing has to do with prevention, and that's what the realignment was all about. But there was other county supervisors that agreed with me to take a neutral position on this, but the RCRC board voted to support and oppose to Prop 47. I love it. If you vote yes, then no, and if you vote no, it's yes. So the position was to oppose Prop 47. I wanted to take a neutral on Prop 47. We had the one that was taken off the table by the legislature, but we had proposed it to allow public employees who retired and became elected to be elected without having to reinstate their retirement. And it was very controversial. The governor's position is he doesn't want double dipping, so the legislature knew that he would veto it, so it didn't proceed, but all the counties, whether it's CSAC or RCRC, do support having retired annuitants allowed to be elected without having to be reinstated. The funding for county veteran service officers, we've talked about that. We feel it will probably be addressed in the next legislative session. And RCRC has a wildfire strategy, and considering what's happened around the state of California, and when we were at the conference, there was a lot of smoke from the King's Fire. They were dealing with it on a multi-level issue, really to get a shift between the U.S. Forest Service. It's something we've all been talking about for years, and other agencies, which dovetails into, and I asked Supervisor Wright if he wanted to share this because he's on the committee, but from the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, which is, by the way, 10 years old, and thanks to a very conservative representative, was he assemblyman or senator at the time? I don't remember. Tim Leslie, we got a Sierra Nevada Conservancy. They've also put out a position paper on what we need to do in the Sierra Nevadas. And I don't know, Chris, is this on their website? I really, would encourage those of you who have an interest in it, living in the Ebbets Pass area. I do have an interest in it, but the impacts of fire and what we need to do to change the culture and the strategy that have occurred. So that dovetails with what rural counties believe. I am asking the board if they would consider adopting a wildfire resolution I will draft it up and submit it at the next board meeting. What? You're looking at me with this. What are you talking about, Rita? Look. What?
I'm sorry,
What?
I was not fully paying attention and something caught my attention and I am now listening. So go on and I'll let you know if I need to stop you further.
Okay, all right. Okay, I will be asking, as we're asking all counties, rural counties in particular, to adopt a wildfire resolution. And in essence, it's asking the Forest Service, because that's where the bulk of the lands are, and even maybe private landowners, to support a change in the methodology of the way we do forest management. I will draft it, and I would like to have the board, I don't want to go through the work if the board's not interested in at least considering it and putting it on the agenda for next meeting.
So am I hearing that you're asking that the board be polled as to whether staff bring an item forward for the board to consider, that staff would work with you in drafting it to add an item to that next agenda?
Because you don't trust my draft. I'll negotiate with you. I will draft something and submit it, and the administrative office, county council can pick what department they think should.
Bring it forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
It's it would just be polling the board to direct staff to be bringing this item forward to the agenda.
I don't want to go
Yes.
through any of the work unless the board's agreeable.
put it on the agenda
I mean, it
and
doesn't
we'll
mean they'll
talk about it
vote
then.
for it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we'll see
then
what it
at
is.
least we look at it. Okay, thank you, I will do that. Okay, one other thing I do want to say is we had the ribbon cutting at the Pine Drive Oak Circle yesterday. It's a project that's probably been over 20 years in the making. Deborah Mullen, the project manager from Public Works, did a yeoman's job in making it happen. I want to thank you, Mr. Packinger, for showing up. And the COG showed up, and Caltrans showed up, and the U.S. Forest Service was there, and the neighbors were there. And it's at the end of a cul-de-sac, and there's a church at the end of this cul-de-sac, and the church asked if they could speak. And so Deborah asked me, well, what do you think, Marita? I said, well, yeah, sure, let them speak and let the chips fall where they may. They were most gracious and said, we have services on Sunday at 11. Outside of that, feel free to use our parking lot to park, which I thought was very nice. So kudos to Deborah for bringing this project to completion. Other than that, I have Ebbets Pass Property Owner Council this week. I have the East Bay Mud event at Pardee. There's the Grape Stomp Saturday, and our board clerk will be stomping. I had some great pictures of her last year. I have the Area 12 Agency on Aging. There's the Common Ground Luau and the Greater Arnold Business Association. Those are some of the things I'll be attending between now and the next meeting. That's all.
Okay. Productive.
Or did you bring tickets to sell to this body, Elizabeth? I'm sure you did. After the meeting.
Supervisor Wright?
Okay. Well, there was a lot of work in my district being very large geographically and having lots of small communities in them. So that's where I spend most of my time, driving from one theoretical fire to another theoretical fire. Thankfully, it was only figuratively, not a real fire. And I think that I'd like to put this on the agenda also for next meeting, and that's a letter in support of an action going to be taken to put some of the old PG&E lands into a conservation easement. for the Motherland Land Trust. And here's a copy of what they're talking about if you want to give it to Diane or just, do it.
Anything else to report?
No, that's all.
Supervisor Edson?
Sure. So, last Tuesday after the meeting, our Board of Supervisors meeting, I drove up to Olympic Village to the RCRC. And it was very smoky. It wasn't just a little bit smoky. And so I went there specifically to meet somebody that, her name is Glenda, and she represents our statewide USDA. And, well, and go to the RC conference too. And there was a lot of good information there, actually. Very good group of people. So on Wednesday, that's what I did. I attended RCRC. Right around 12:30, you couldn't see the hills or the mountains in the back of the hotel. It was so smoky, and I felt like I was gargling in forest fire. It was kind of terrible. My eyes were burning. Guess I'm not as young as I used to be. And I met with Glenda at dinner, and we discussed a watershed management program that I'm working on. And so we were there for a couple hours probably. She's a pretty smart lady, and she liked parts of it, so I felt pretty good about that. So I left that night and drove back home, got home around 1:30 in the morning. And the next day, we had a meeting at the Office of Education up in Angels Camp with Delta College, with the Calaveras County Office of Education, and with Columbia College, and various people interested in post-secondary education in the county. Really great meeting. And the idea was to get to for Columbia and Delta to collaborate, because right now, they've been like adversaries. I wouldn't say adversaries, but they have lines that they can't cross, and I don't think they were ever really communicated about that, and so now they did. And very good meeting. They've decided that they're going to put some pretty serious focus on Calaveras County to make sure that we get our dose of post-secondary education here, including a lot of the technical type schools that people think that we should be having more of, focused around, I know the auto tech school at the high school right now, Delta's going to be, in the springtime, they'll be offering classes there for their program in a big way. There's also going to be, they're just going to talk about other things, and I suggested quite a few things myself, probably more than they wanted to hear, but, that's okay, that's what I do. So I was I was extremely happy to see that meeting and how well it went. And there'll be more. They're having little small meetings now just to kind of work things out, because there's issues that they have to deal with legally to be able to work together like that, and they're most willing to do that. So I was very, very happy to see that.
Columbia was there too?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Never thought I'd see that day, but there it is. So that was an extremely good meeting, even though I was extremely tired. Didn't stop me from talking though. Friday I went to Tuolumne Fairgrounds to an event called 2Care, and Tom McClintock was speaking there, and our congressman, and then our assemblyman Frank Bigelow was also speaking, and they're talking about
watershed, all that sort of thing, forest fires. And then there was Dr. Roger Bale, and he's from UC Merced. He was there talking about the forest and how to, managing the forest, just like everybody else is talking about right now, and how to get certain yields out of the forest as far as snowpack, maximum snowpack, greatest yields of water, things like that, what that's supposed to look like. He's done a lot of studies in the past 4 years, and what's really cool about that now is that they're doing it with these little sensors, and these little sensors that they plant in the soil and in the trees and all over the place, and it's all read by satellites. So it's pretty, the technology is fairly inexpensive and pretty accurate on what's going on out there, including for the past 4 years how the climate has changed a little bit, or how the our drought has increased, what's happening there. And so it was very interesting to listen to him and see his data. On Saturday, what did I do Saturday? Saturday I went to Ironstone, and I went to the 4-H luncheon there, and so I was lucky enough to sit next to this gentleman named Bob Elliott from San Joaquin County. He's the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisor chairperson, and of course we chatted about, what can we do for you type thing, and we had a really good conversation around groundwater recharge, actually. And then also Senator Berryhill was there, and I spoke with him for probably an hour, pretty much about the same thing. We talked a little bit about the water bond, and I was curious about that, actually, to find out a little bit more about it. And he's also advocating for the water bond. So much as I hate to do that, I think that there's probably some things in there that could help us out. Sunday, I didn't do a thing. Sunday, I did nothing. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. And then yesterday, I went to a meeting at COG. Chris was there, and we talked about a program that we're putting together, and it's a watershed management program, and we're looking at it as an economic development potential for Calaveras County. Since we give the water away, maybe we can make money on managing the watershed. And so we have, it's quite a big project, but there's a lot of potential there, and I think that we're going to move forward with it and see if it can help us out here in the county. And then at 5:30 p.m. last night, I went to Candidates Night at La Contenta, and that was for District 5 Supervisor. And, Steve Kearney and Marty Crane was there, and then also for the judges, and then others showed up too. Some people from CCWD showed up, and then some people from the hospital for the healthcare district. Is it healthcare district? Mm-hmm. And then after that, I went over to the Rancho Clubhouse. I'm a glutton for punishment, and they were having a Rod and Gun Club meeting. Boy, there was a lot of people there. Actually, more people there than at the candidates night. It was
a little more fun.
Yeah, they looked like they were having fun. And so let's see who showed up there. Tim Healy was there, and then also Steve showed up there. And they were talking about trying to get together their group and to basically form a rod and gun club. And a lot of the talk was about safety last night, which I was really pleased to hear. And it was a pretty nice little event. So. And here I am today. We have the lunch to go to with FRD on Friday. And let's see, tomorrow. It's good. I think. Oh, there's Pink in the Night. That's on tomorrow night, yeah. We have COG tomorrow night. And I won't be there at Pink in the Night because I have COG, unless Marita wants to, do COG. And then also there is on next weekend is the, where's the weekend after? There's the Wine on Main Street here in San Andreas. And so, and also, please do not forget about this weekend is the powwow in Valley Springs. Try to show up and support that really good effort. I heard they have a whole bunch more vendors this year, and it's supposed to be a really good show. So that's it.
Okay. Tomorrow I have an EMS meeting in Copperopolis at 9 o'clock at the Copper Firehouse. I've been excused from jury duty, so I'm able to attend that, as I thought maybe I might not. I know on the agenda there will be some review and discussion of the ambulance service agreements. Ebbets Pass was the only applicant, you might say, for that region of the county, and American Legion was the only applicant for the rest of the counties. I forget what they call them, I think north and south zones. But EMS will be reviewing those particular agreements at that meeting. There's a COG meeting tomorrow night here in the board chambers. I attended a Fish and Game Commission meeting last Wednesday. The commission is looking at formalizing an annual report to be brought to the board, which I think will be very informational and educational on their work this last year and what they'd like to do for the future. I attended I think it was called Fit and Fun Senior Expo across the way at the Senior Center last week, and it was nice to see representation from Area 12 there, identifying services for seniors. They have a survey that they're trying to encourage more people to participate. I think you can go to Area 12 agency online, if I recall. There's paper surveys at different governmental locations. They're trying to get a grasp over what senior needs are in the county and be able to develop programming from there. So I encourage folks to grab that survey. And I'm not sure what age senior is. It depends if you shop Tuesday at Save Mart or if you're on Medicare. So
50 for that survey.
Is it 50? Okay, 50 for the senior survey. This weekend attended the Drop the Drug program, which is one of the grant-funded programs that we are participating with, and they had several locations throughout the county. And this is for folks who have expired or no longer using prescription drugs, a safe way in which to dispose of, and versus, dumping it down the drain or putting in a landfill or whatever else might happen. So from the Angels Camp perspective, it was a pretty good turnout. This is a twice-a-year event. And then attended the Concours d'Elegance, and that was a very nice show, very well attended, and lots of beautiful, beautiful cars. In the Gold Rush Run, which was register, sign up, confirm your attendance on Saturday, and run on Sunday. I did not run. I watched many others. Great event. I was afraid to embarrass myself there, so I cheered the folks on. But what was nice about that event is the community turnout, and with the Highway 4 bypass, which took years to put into place, it was nice to be able to see the closure of downtown Angels Camp and see such a race. Speaking of the closure of downtown Angels Camp, Angels will be celebrating Gold Rush Days on October 18th, where once again the road will be closed and lots of celebrations going on in and around Angels Camp on that day. And just not to forget about the the powwow in Valley Springs, but we have the grape stomp in Murphy's.
And
we
also
have
lumberjack days on,
celebrating 40
Saturday,
years.
yeah.
40 years, which is, to me, a remarkable achievement for a community event. So that's all I have at this point.
And
So-
Avery's challenging Mark Twain on the 2nd.
What's that?
Avery Middle School's challenging Mark Twain
Very good.
on the 2nd.
Little
Didn't know if you want to make a wager on that, Supervisor?
We just might have to do that, because I know Mark Twain's pretty good, and
Yeah, so's Avery.
but I can't say much for the Bret Hart Calaveras game, so, which I didn't see you at the Calaveras Bret Hart game at Bret Hart, but that's okay.
you
You
won't
have
see
some
me
bragging rights for another year.
You won't see me there.
So,
I mean, if they played in San Andreas, I'd go.
yeah, okay. Any
West Point.
comments from board reports from staff? Lori? Admin office, Megan, county
Nothing to
council?
report.
Diane? Okay, any others? I see Rebecca here. Any comments?
Just on the goal run, the parents have always tried to get about 250, and so the parents, that's what they were shooting for. There were 360 registrants.
Yes.
All right,
So
good
we're
job.
probably
All right, good
greater
job.
number than what have been projected.
Yeah.
And even those that weren't registered, it was a huge turnout. It was really fun.
Great event. All right, any public comments on items on this item of the agenda? Yes?
The IHSS advisory,
So we can hear you loud and clear.
The IHSS Advisory Committee met yesterday, and we previewed our video that we purchased, and the folks that were able to stay thought it was excellent, so we're promising a viewing for you all when we have a chance to schedule a little study session, and it'll be mostly video, so you don't have to listen to a bunch of blah, blah. And then I had a question about an agenda item coming up. The biosolids acceptability criteria, is this the poop factory that we talked about a couple years ago, the recycling thing? Oh, okay, I want to be there for that one. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, that concludes our regular agenda. Supervisor Edson has another comment to make.
I have the date for Wines on the Main. It's right here in San Andreas, October 25th, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, at this point, we're going to convene the regular agenda and go into closed session to continue item number 2.